All right, everyone. I have that it is 3 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Mountain. So I will turn it on over to Scott Jensen, an extension educator out of Owyhee County, and he is going to be telling us all about safety on the water.
All right, thanks, Amy, and welcome to today's UI Together. Joining you today from the beautiful surroundings of Lake Lowell. If you're not from Southwest Idaho, Lake Lowell is a man-made reservoir. It takes water comes to it through some canals, the New York Canal being one of them, and fills Lake Lowell, and then its main use is irrigation water. That's why it was constructed. But anyway, it sure beats being in the office. So I'm going to have Amy go ahead and launch the initial poll. If you would, just kind of indicate or answer the poll questions. Hopefully those will come up here, and there we go. So just who you've got with you and age groups and some of that kind of information. We'll give you just a minute to answer those, and then we'll get started. So you want me to? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with today's program. Just a couple of things, hopefully if my slide will transition. There we go. All right, so just for those of you who may not be aware, what is extension education, and really it's our effort at the University of Idaho to bring knowledge and research of the university to wherever you are, and especially following all the COVID stuff, it's certainly become when it's convenient to you too. But we've got a lot of folks that work on a lot of different things, from food production to 4-H and youth. I better mention with Serene here, nutrition, health, and wellness, and a lot of other things that we're involved in. I'm going to show this little quick video, and then we'll get started out.
University of Idaho Extension is working to ensure a safe and stable supply of water for all Idaho.
Hopefully you got the video and not the rattling that we got. But all right, so we're gonna, or I guess first, first I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an extension educator in Owyhee County. I've been with the university now 22 plus years. Mostly I do livestock range and pasture management work, but occasionally I get to do other fun stuff like come out in a boat in the middle of the afternoon. So that's kind of me. And from there, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see what we got going on, and hand it over. I forgot my lovely assistants today. And in the back, office this summer. So with that, we're just going to talk about water safety and some of the things that are really important. Okay. Number one, when you're out on the water, swimming, boating, I don't care what it is, number one thing that you really ought to do Cassie, come on up here for a second. Is you really ought to buddy up, okay? Because you never know what might happen. And if you're out by yourself, even though you can swim and do well, if you're out by yourself and something does happen, that might be the end. And I'll give you just a little quick personal experience. When I was about high school senior age, my friend Byron and I went with some other folks over to Black Canyon Reservoir outside of Emmett. And we were out on a floating dock, we're boating, water skiing, everybody's having a good time. Well, some folks were gone in the boat pulling a skier, and I think there were 3 of us left on the dock. A piece of driftwood started to come in to where kind of the path the boat would take. And so I said to Byron, let's jump in, swim out to that, get it picked up. Well, we swam out to it, grabbed it, got turned around, and about that time, Byron's knee cramped up. He'd had surgery on it, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 months earlier, and his knee cramped up, and he just couldn't, I mean, he panicked. And if I hadn't been right there, Byron would have gone down, and it would have been a pretty ugly day. It was scary enough, and I, trying to fight a struggling, panicky person, but I was able to get my arms around Byron and kind of backstroke a little bit, got close enough to the dock that the person there was able to throw out a life vest or something, and we got him back up there. But it's just an easy example of a reason why the buddy system is super, super important. Okay. Next thing on the list is to swim in safe areas. Now, we live out in the country out here, and sometimes things like irrigation canals are pretty tempting. And I know a lot of people that have played in canals, their whole lives, and it's all good, but there is current there. There are head gates where there's some water movement, suction that could pull you down. It just can be not a very, very safe place. If it's possible, better off to stay somewhere where we have, where you've got a lifeguard, or at least there are a lot of other people around that can help. Okay. Third rule, know what limits are. Okay. If you're not in very good shape, maybe you don't go out very far, or you don't try to swim a long distance. It's different for each person. And so kind of know what the limits are, and then stay within those bounds. Okay. Next thing on the list is life jackets. Okay. It's a good idea to wear a life jacket on the water. And if you are, I realize I say that and I don't have one on, but 2 things I guess I would tell you first. One is that I'm a fairly good swimmer, and number 2, we're in a boat that's not moving, feel pretty safe. Okay. But anytime in Idaho, if there are kids that are in a boat, they've got to wear a life jacket by law. If they're 14 or younger, you got to have a life jacket on. And it's important for that life jacket to fit properly. So I thought to kind of go through that a little bit. We tell the story of Goldilocks and the 3 life jackets. Okay. So we have Goldilocks back here, also known as Cassie. And Cassie's first she's gonna try on. Let me see. I rummaged around in the boat. I rummaged earlier, and I found this one. Now this one, hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but it's kind of what I would say is a girl color, pink and whatever. And so I think, hey, perfect one for Cassie. I'm gonna give that to her to put on. So let's see. Cassie puts it on. Can you? Oh my goodness. She's gonna have a hard time zipping that one up. So this one is too small. Let me see if I can rummage around and find another one. Oh, here's one. This surely will fit her. It's a men's 2X. I'll bet she can get that one on and zip it up. Look at that. It is zipping up just super, super easy. Okay. So we could say, well, that one fits, right? And it does have, maybe we can really suck it in, but it's not a very good fit for Cassie. So if we take, here's kind of a rule of thumb, if you're trying to decide, you know, is a life jacket fit good enough or is it too big? If I come around here and, you know, Cassie could raise, if her arm's raised up, I could pretty well slip this one off. I'd have to get under her chin, but I can take that life jacket completely off. Now, you know, you might say, well, she's not going to do that. It'll be fine. But if you're riding a tube or fall off, you panic, whatever, very easily that jacket could come off. And especially if you're playing in the water, if you're tubing or skiing or something like that, you fall off and there's a little bit of force there that kind of kicks you out, that jacket could come off super, super easy. So let's see if we've got one that might fit her. Whoa, that's not right. Sorry, trouble. So Cassie rummages around, we find another one, and this one says that it's a women's medium, right? So that one says it's a women's medium, and if you look, okay, fits nice and snug. I can grab it at the shoulders, and even if she puts her arms up, I don't think, I'm not going to get that one off, okay? And so that jacket is just right, okay? We had the too small, we had the too big, now we have just right. Hopefully the big bad wolf doesn't come and eat her up. All righty. Then a few other things that are important. So we're sitting in the middle of the lake. It's a hot afternoon. It might be pretty tempting to just get up on the back of the boat and dive in. But how do I know if the water's deep enough? You know, there are more injuries caused by people diving into shallow water, broken necks and other things, people that end up paralyzed because they dove into water that was too shallow. And so it's really important in water that you're unfamiliar with to go in feet first. Make sure you know how deep it is. Now I have a little cheater here. We've been watching the fish go by on the fish finder. I can tell you that right where we're sitting, it's basically 9 feet. Don't know if you could see that or not, but if I didn't have that, I really wouldn't know how deep it was. Just a good idea to make a habit of jumping in feet first. And that way, if if it's more shallow than you expect, you'll still be fine. I'd rather have a tweak an ankle or something than end up with a broken neck. If you here at Lake Lowell, there's a nice park over to the west of where we're currently sitting, and I can tell you from experience that when I take the boat past the buoys there, the water shallows up really quickly. And so even though I'm quite a ways out from the shore, that water might only be, sometimes it's only 3 or 4 feet deep, a long ways out from the shore. And so you just want to really be careful to know how deep it is and make sure that you can go and have a good time rather than end up with somebody hurt. Okay. Another one I would just invite you to, if you don't know how to swim, see if you can get into some kind of swimming lesson. It's a good skill to have. Lots of, it's great exercise. And so, take some swimming lessons somewhere, learn how to swim in a controlled situation so that then when you get out somewhere like an open lake, you'll be safe. two other things that we're going to talk about. One is, I mean, it's a beautiful afternoon here, but I've been here in the summertime when all of a sudden we're out boating, having a great time, and a big thunderstorm rolls in, and we start seeing a lot of lightning hitting the ground off in the distance. Don't boat during a storm. Don't swim during a storm. Get out of the water. Stay safe. Okay? And then last but not least, okay, what do you do if somebody that you're with gets in trouble? A lot of times people end up, when we see drownings, there's a lot of times where there's two: the person that got in trouble in the first place and the person that wanted to help. Okay. And so it's really important that if you're going to help, you do something, be safe about it. So for example, right here, this is just a throwable seat cushion. It floats. If somebody's in trouble, I'm way better off to toss this out to them. They can get their arms through it, get a chest on it, they can lean, and it'll keep them afloat. But one of the reasons why is because a lot of times when people get in trouble in the water, they start to panic. And if you go up and even though you're trying to help, they panic and they don't know what's going on, and they're thrashing, and they end up pushing you down as well as struggling themselves. You can throw something out to them, whether it's a seat cushion or a floatable ring, or if they're close enough, sometimes I can just so I've got a paddle here on the boat. I could just reach out across the side, make it grab a hold of the end, and I can safely pull them back to the boat. Okay. So that's something that is definitely important, is that if you're trying to help somebody, you want to make sure that that you're doing it, in a way that's going to keep you safe and going to provide some real help to them. One of the last things I would say is that if somebody's in trouble, and maybe we put that jacket back on real quick. I'm gonna have Captain put that jacket back on real quick. And this doesn't matter if you're in a boat, if you're rafting the river or whatever, but when somebody's in trouble and you're trying to help get them back on board, okay, one of the best things you can do is, I could throw Cassie in, so then I had to rescue her, but she might not appreciate it. But if she was down off the side of the boat, I'll stand up some taller. Okay, I could reach over the edge of the boat, grab a hold of the shoulders, and since this jacket fits her well, I can grab it from the shoulders. Some of the life jackets have actually a little loop on the back, but I could grab from there and pull her up in and be able to get her back in the boat with, again, keeping myself safe and being able to help her out. So those are the basic water safety rules. I'm going to just review that quick. And this is a handout that we had available. You should have all got it by email when you registered. But make sure to buddy up. Make sure that you just don't swim alone, okay? Really important. Second thing, swim in safe areas, okay? Be sure you know where help is, whether it's a lifeguard or other people, but be safe that way. Third rule, know what your limits are, okay? Don't try to, swim the English Channel if you can barely dog paddle. We want to make sure you swim, and play in the water wherever it's safe for you, okay? Wear a life jacket. And more importantly than that, wear one that fits. Now, something I forgot to mention, and that I see a lot now, is I have grandchildren that are getting older and bigger and coming out. They love to ride in the boat. The jacket that fit them last year might not be appropriate for them this year. And so you want to make sure that you have a life jacket that is appropriately sized for whatever size that the youth or adult happens to be. Okay, I skipped one earlier. There's one on this sheet that says don't enter cold water. It's amazing how quick hypothermia can set in if you're in cold water. And so sometimes we like to get an early start. Things are a little chilly, but it takes very little time in real cold water to have hypothermia set in. Okay. Then, if you're jumping in to unknown waters, make sure you go feet first. Okay. Like I told you a minute ago, we were in close to 9-foot water, I think. Just in the time we've been talking, the boat has kind of gently drifted towards the shore, and now it's only 7.5 feet. And so if I wasn't paying attention, I maybe would think things are great there, and pretty soon I drift into some spot where it could cause a real problem. So feet first until you're sure of the depth of the water. I'm even getting a shallow water alarm on the boat. Okay, then stay out of the water if it's stormy. Learn how to swim, take some lessons, really get that figured out. And then last but not least, if somebody's in trouble and you need to help them, throw something, a throwable cushion, a life ring, a life vest, reach for them with a paddle or some kind of a stick, something that will allow you to kind of stay in a safe zone while you're helping them. And that way you can stay safe, they can stay safe, and all be good. Okay? So with that, I'm going to, I don't know, I guess I'd give it a second and see, does anybody have any questions about anything?
So no questions have come in the chat, but if anyone has anything, feel free to unmute and ask questions. Also, there is a link to the survey in the chat. We ask all of you to fill that out.
Okay, well, if there aren't any, I'm going to go back and if I can see in the sun here, I know you're all thinking, boy, that's a tough problem. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen for a second. That's not the right one. Hang on. No, that's not it. Give me just a second. It does provide some challenge to do this out of a boat, just in case you're ever wondering. All right, let me get back here to where we need to be. Bear with me just a minute. Oh, that's the right slide. There we go. Anyway, yeah, if you ever have any questions, I would certainly be glad to try to help answer those. So feel free to email me, send me a message, give me a call at the office. As Amy said, if you would take a second and complete the survey, we would really appreciate it. And then last but not least, oh, Serene says a question came in. So Joey said that her family likes to tube, which my family really likes to tube. Are there any specific safety recommendations for tubing? And so there are a couple of safety recommendations. One is that you may not be aware, but every boat is rated for a certain number of people. So if mine's got a little placard in it that says 8 people or 1,200 pounds, I think is what it says. And that includes the individuals that are on the tube or on the ski or whatever. It's a total thing. And so I know a lot of times that people like to, you fill the boat with people, plus you put some out on a a tube or something, and that's one that we should be aware of. Okay. One other thing is that if you're skiing or tubing, it is required in Idaho, and I think most states, that you have somebody they don't have to necessarily be adult, but somebody that's old enough to watch what's going on and flag, meaning you've got a little square bright orange flag to hold up, and I have one tucked away in here, but if somebody falls off the ski or the tube, sorry, Serene made me get it. So there's the ski flag that we have. So if somebody falls off, then the individual that is flagging in the boat needs to hold it up. It's a sign, call us around you, be careful, we've got somebody in the water. We don't want to get them run over. Okay. Other things, ski or tubing, would be more focused on the boat driver, because sometimes it's very easy to get kind of in a competition with the people riding versus the guy driving the boat, or gal. And I guarantee you there's nobody gets on a tube that I couldn't throw off, no matter how much they brag. But I don't want to do it at the cost of them getting hurt. And so that's something that a driver just has to learn, is some self-discipline. I always say there's a fine line between giving somebody a good ride and getting somebody hurt. And so things like keeping slack out of the rope, because if you let a bunch, you make a turn and get a bunch of slack in the rope, and then as the boat straightens out, that quickly goes away, you can peel people off a tube and nothing flat. So it's all about safety, even there, having a good time, being safe. And the other thing, because there's so many turns and whatever, really important to watch the other boats. If you're totally focused on watching the people behind you, you can very easily end up in the fire. And so that's something that just you really have to watch out for. Okay. So hopefully that answers your questions.